Do you ever find yourself dreaming about those delicious bites you can get from street vendors or from state fairs? Because I know I do. Wouldn't it be great if whenever you'd have those cravings, you'd look out the window and there it is, a street food vendor? Well, I'm pretty sure we can find a solution together. Let's figure it out, you and me. Hello, welcome to Food Groove, where we don't just cook, but we uncover the stories behind the dishes that we showcase. So, if that's your jam, stick around, because we've got something special for you today. I've picked out 3 super easy street food recipes from 3 different parts of the world. We are talking cheesy Italian calzone, bursting Mexican burrito, and the Middle Eastern joy of a falafel bowl. And the great part is, you don't have to be an expert in any of these cuisines to pull this off. Obviously, if you are, please don't judge me too harshly. Instead, share your insights in the comments below. I would love to learn more about it. We will leave the falafel for last, as it takes a little bit more time to cook, and I also want to share with you 2 great tips that I've learned the hard way whilst making this video. So, if you want to see some incredible dishes and also my whoopsie moment, please make sure to watch until the end. Let's quickly handle the YouTuber part. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. It will help us immensely to keep doing what we're doing. Calzone was originally made in Naples, Italy. The idea behind this folded pizza was to give the working class an easy way to enjoy it without needing to sit down with a knife and a fork. So, this walk-around pizza is the perfect representative for the Italian street food.
Let's start with the calzone first. Bear in mind that we are making enough dough for this recipe as well as for the burrito. We need to mix 300 milliliters of water with 7 grams of dry yeast, 450 grams of flour, and a teaspoon of salt. Leave yourself a little flour for later, as you will need it to roll the dough. For the tomato sauce, heat up a pan with a little bit of olive oil and crush 1 garlic clove. Fry until it's fragrant. Add 2 to 3 tablespoons of tomato puree. Reduce the thickness of the sauce with a little bit of water until you're happy with its consistency. Spice it with a sprinkle of oregano and some Italian herb mix. I had some peperoncino mix, so I used that for a little kick. But this is interchangeable, so feel free to season to taste. Sprinkle some flour on the surface and start rolling the dough until thin enough. We need to cut it in a circle, so I used a plate to make my life easier. Spread a tablespoon of the sauce on the edge of the circle, but don't use too much, otherwise your calzone will be soggy. Then bring in the mozzarella, as much or as little as you want. To finish it off, I used prosciutto, but I actually made 2 and went with pepperoni for the second one. You've got some flexibility here. Fold it nicely, making sure the calzone is nicely sealed to avoid any sauce spilling. Transfer it to a baking tray and coat with an egg yolk. I used 1 egg yolk for both of them and it was more than enough. Bake it in the oven at 200 degrees for 20 minutes. You'll know it's ready when it looks something like this. And that is it. You are now ready to enjoy.
For the burrito, one of the theories is that in Mexico, people who are making food at home in order to sell it needed a way to keep it warm, to travel with it, and to serve it. So they wrapped it in a flour tortilla. Now, because the final result looked like the package that the donkeys used to carry on their backs, they called it a burrito, which in Spanish means little donkey.
For the burrito, we need to heat up a pan with a drizzle of vegetable oil and toss in 200 grams of beef mince. To spice it up, I use the taco seasoning mix as in my opinion it has all the goodies. but using ground cumin and salt should be enough. Cook the meat for 5 minutes, then add some tomato puree and a sprinkle of water to reduce its thickness a little. Stir for a few minutes until everything in the pan is nicely blended. Use the extra dough made earlier, follow the same process and roll it into a round shape. Mine wasn't quite a perfect round shape, but it's good enough. After all, it's homemade. To finish the wrap, I pan-baked it. I like to turn it over fairly often to avoid burning it. You will know the wrap is ready when there is no spots of raw dough on the surface. The burrito can have a variety of ingredients, but rice and beans are a must. I used a tomato, a green onion and some parsley, you can also use coriander, to quickly make some salsa. I also smashed half an avocado with a squeeze of lemon, a little lazy guacamole if I may. Bring in the wrap and we can start putting it all together. Obviously, don't forget the grated cheese. All that's left to do now is to wrap them all up. Make sure you fold the ends in so nothing escapes. The excitement is real. It's time to taste it.
The falafel history is a bit controversial. There are stories suggesting that it goes all the way back to pharaonic Egypt, with the main ingredient being the fava flour. However, as it traveled to different countries in the Middle East, the fava flour was replaced with the chickpeas.
So chickpeas is what I used. I like to soak them in water overnight and boil them for about 10 minutes in the pressure cooker so they're just easier to work with. So that is what I did. While the chickpeas are boiling, I prepared some garlic, half an onion, parsley, and some coriander. I then placed the chickpeas in a big bowl and started breaking them apart a little. I added the onion, the garlic, coriander and parsley paste, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of ground cumin, a pinch of salt, and a teaspoon of all-purpose flour. With all that in, we are back to some more mixing, and here's mistake number 1. I decided to not use a blender or a food processor as I thought I can get a good consistency just doing it by hand. I was wrong. Doing it this way meant that I had big pieces of chickpeas left in the mix, which would eventually cause troubles, as you will see in just a second. But for now, let's carry on. Lastly, I added some sesame seeds and rolled half of the mix in little balls. I boiled some quinoa to have a base for the bowl and moved on to mistake number 2, shallow frying the falafel balls. Because I decided to shallow fry over deep frying, it meant that I had to turn them over a few times, which didn't help and made mistake number 1 even worse. Eventually, when I took them out of the pan, they didn't hold their shape. Gladly, I still had half of the mix, so I got the blender out, made sure that this time there is no big pieces of chickpeas left, and ended up with a much better consistency. Also, I decided to deep fry them for a better result. The only thing left to do is to put them all together, so I cut some kale, a few strips of carrot, half of tomato, some pickled beetroot and pickled cauliflower. And that is it, time to serve!
The 3 dishes we cooked today are barely scratching the surface of the incredibly vast street food options. If you like this video and you'd like to see more street food recipes, drop me a note in a comment below with your suggestions. Until next time, happy cooking!